Hello and welcome to episode 273 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. Joined as always is by my main man, Snoog. Last week, you can still hear it in my voice a little bit. I could not talk all week. Snoog was in Texas. We apologize. This is the first time we have not recorded a podcast in a week, honestly, in about 2.5 years. So without further ado, Snoog, we're back, baby. We're back.
We're back. It feels good. It was an awesome trip. I mean, I went to TCU football game. I went to a Texas Longhorns football game, Cowboys, Eagles, traveled around the entire state of Dallas or the entire state of Texas from Dallas to Austin to Fort Worth. So it was really cool. Get out there and see if any of you listeners are from Texas, it's a cool place. So it was cool to get over there and see what's going on there and go see some good football. So feels good to be back, though. This is where we belong, and I'm excited to jump on here and talk about some fantasy football and some dynasty trades with everybody.
Right now, I mean, and a lot of you guys are really subscribed to a lot of the redraft stuff that we're doing. Snoog, it was awesome. My first week ranking with Fantasy Genius, and I finished number 2 over all analysts other than Eric Moody. Over all the guys at Fantasy Pros, over Matthew Berry. You and I have been doing a ton of redraft. Tonight, we're going to focus back in on Dynasty. We're going to talk a lot about trades because, Snoog, I don't know about you, but I went across my leagues this year, and I have 3 rebuilds. But in my 18 other leagues, right now, I'm literally at like 79% win rate. You know what I mean? It's like all these teams are set up. I've clinched in about half my leagues. I've clinched the playoffs already because a lot of these moves that we've been telling people to make, these guys that we've been telling people to buy, they're in position already to smash. And the guys in the Discord, man, it was crazy, right? We said, this past week, Nico Collins was out. I was like, guys, go pick up John Mechie. John Mechie goes up for like 16 points. These guys were already in there. There's already in position on that kind of things. Tonight, we're going to talk about some dynasty trades to just put you guys back into position. We're heading into week 11. That means, if you're in Scott Fishbowl, playoffs start next week. Everybody else, we're talking about, playoffs starting in the next couple of weeks. So you really got to get yourself ready. Snoog, how do you go about looking at your rosters right now, right? I love this. Joey just put, hey, mics sound good today, lads. Snoog got the new mic. He's ready to roll. Anybody that's been listening and we have any audio concerns, they are gone. We're ready to go. So, Snoog, we're into week 11 right now. How do you go about looking across your leagues? How do you go about setting you're setting your lineups now? You're looking at things and you're like, okay, I'm 9-1. This is an easy one to like kind of look at. What do I do here? 7-3, it's a little bit different. 6-4, 5-5. Okay, what are we going to do with these kind of things? So, what is your mentality right now looking at your rosters as an overall whole? Because I know you and I do this, right? We organize our rosters, we organize all of our leagues so you can look at which ones are contending, which ones are rebuilding, which ones are in this area. Talk to me.
Yeah, at this point in time, I mean, we're about 4 to 5 weeks away from week 15, which is the start of most people's playoffs.
Wild.
It's usually 15, 16, 17. You should by now, and you should have 2 weeks ago, have an idea of if you're a rebuilder or if you're a contender. If you're fringe in that middle tier and you're kind of like in that 4-win, 5-win range, at this point, if you haven't yet, just you got to just go for it. You got to go for the ship. You got to see if you can make a run. Right now, on every contending team I am making sure that I have depth at every position. I'm making sure I have two tight ends, a George Kittle, Trey McBride, a Travis Kelce, and then I'm looking to make sure I have a lot of K-Dot just from stashing them from previous years. I'm making sure I have like a Taysom Hill, just one of a Hunter Henry, just one of those tight ends that's on that fringe top 10 range that if a George Kittle or Travis Kelce goes down or misses any sort of time, I have a plug and play top 10 tight end that can give me 10 fantasy points, 12 fantasy points a week. A Zach Ertz is another good option. Yeah. These are cheap guys that you could just stash at the depth of the position. Same thing with quarterback. I mean, we got the Joe Flacco's, we got the Cooper Rushes, the Gardner Minshew's. Just make sure you have. I always like to have 3 quarterbacks no matter what, because there was one year I was the 1 seed. I had the first round bye. I had Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and another quarterback. I forget who it was. I think it was Russ. All 3 of them were hurt, and all 3 of them missed the entire week. I think it was 15 and 16. And I literally had to start. Who was that Broncos guy that started? at quarterback.
Paxton Lynch?
No,
How far back are we going?
He wasn't even a quarterback, and he played quarterback.
Oh, yeah, the wide receiver.
Yes.
They had a wide receiver.
I literally had to pick him up, and then that Chris Stragler or whatever tight end quarterback guy for the Jets. Right. I remember I was in a predicament where I don't know. I know Lamar was hurt. I forget who my other quarterback was. And I literally had to play those two guys. And I ended up losing with like the best team in the league because I literally had no quarterback and I just got 0 at the position.
Yeah.
And like that stuck with me. And ever since then, I always make sure I got Kendall Hill. And I always make sure I have 3 quarterbacks. You got to have a Joe Flacco. You just got to have a Joe Flacco on the bench.
Yeah. You bring up great points. I really like to look at, like you talked about the Hunter Henrys. You know, this particular week I went through, Hunter Henry had a bad game. I went and looked on all 20 teams. Who has, Hunter Henry? Are they guys that are anybody that was under 500? I'll just throw a third and see what happens. Try to start you'd be surprised. People are going to give up on running backs. They're going to give up on tight ends because they feel like they're past that area where they're going to be able to get that whole area. Yo, I love this. Paul said Michael MF Royd is back. I love that. You guys have really been so supportive of trying to get us back on the podcast. It really means a lot because it was like, oh, they were gone for a week, and we were like, they won't miss us. And it was awesome, man. One thing that I start to look at is here, Matt sends this question in from YouTube. And again, guys, if you guys are not following us on YouTube, make sure you guys do that. It helps us. It helps, move things along. We are also answering every question that's on as a super chat. If you guys put it out there right now where we will break down trades, we will break down your roster. We'll do whatever you need. We have so many questions already. Snoog, they're really piling up, but we're going to try to get to as many as we can. And Matt asks, Tyreek Hill for 2 firsts in a 12-team Superflex rebuilding. Snoog, I'm smashing that. I'm smashing that. Tyreek Hill has created a sell window for you now, right? Aside from the game he got arrested, he has not been a wide receiver 1 all season long. All right. They have a tough slate down the rest of the stretch. Every single week, I'm tired of saying this is the week where Tyreek Hill breaks out. Tyreek Hill still has not dropped value. If you look at it, Snoog, on most of the rankings that you look at, Tyreek Hill has not dropped at all in value all year, right? But he's just getting older. I love Tyreek Hill, but everybody's like, oh, I'm going to buy him on my contender. No. They're like, now's not the time to buy Tyreek Hill. You want to buy Christian McCaffrey? You want to buy Derrick Henry? You want to buy Joe Mixon? Sure. You want to buy Cooper Kupp? But Tyreek Hill has not done it, and the name cachet is still there for that value. I love looking at these kind of things right now. Snoog, if I'm rebuilding, 2 firsts for Tyreek Hill. Sure. Cedric Tillman in a mid-first. Smash. Get yourself a toss-in a mid-first at this point for Tyreek Hill. Get yourself – I saw Josh Downs in the 108. I'll take that. Give me Josh Downs. He's outperformed Tyreek Hill at this point. I would even do it if on a contending team. I think you could even sell Tyreek Hill for Cooper Kupp in a second and get yourself same kind of production, but you're going to get insulation with that pick. And I think there's a lot of moves here you can make on those type of things where if you're not, Snoog, there's a difference between being a smash contender where I have 3 teams where I'm 9-1 that I've outscored the number 2 team by 400 points. So I don't need to tinker too much, but I have other teams where, I'm 6-4. I have one where I'm number 1 in points, but I'm 5-5. All right. So let's insulate now a little bit. Let's trade Tyreek Hill, get a first, and then get a player that's going to give you production right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like I have no problem with guys doing that for someone that's in that second round value. Someone that's going to, you give me DeAndre Hopkins in a first for Tyreek Hill right now, I'll take it. Because I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to put up similar points down the stretch. And a lot of people think that's crazy, but for me, I would rather have that and then keep this team going, have that longevity where now I'm going to get over the last several weeks since Nuke's gone to Kansas City has been better than Tyreek Hill. So I have no problem with it.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is tough. He feels like one of those guys that.
Well, here's the other thing. With that wrist injury, he could shut down at any point. Like they said it's borderline surgery.
If they're on the brink of missing playoffs, they're probably going to shut him down.
Right. But DeAndre Hopkins is going to play all year. Calvin Ridley's going to play all year. Guys that are putting up some low key production. I have no problem with those kind of moves. You know what I mean?
I feel like
I know you're more of a Tyreek guy than I am. You know, I'm down to just 2 shares.
I'm caught holding the bag on him right now because I feel like there was never really a good sell window unless it was after week 1 because you had the Tua situation and now you have this injury and him not really producing that well with Tua back. I mean, he's been like decent. I mean, he's been putting up like 15, 12, like 12, like just not the type of numbers you want, but he is the type of player that out of nowhere, 30, 20, 25.
I agree.
Like, and then I feel like at this point in time, if you're holding him, if you're not getting 2 firsts, or if you're not getting like a first and a good player you like, and you're contending and you're a serious contender, and like you don't really. The way I look at it is, if you're like how I'm looking at it from my perspective on my teams is, he hasn't been doing shit for my teams as is right now, so why not just hold on to him? And because like he could unlock your team to the next level. Or your team stays the same. And if your team's been nasty with him being mediocre,
that's fair.
Then it's the same. But if he takes it to the next level and brings that elite upside like he really has, I don't think they're stopping some of my teams that have a Tyreek Hill on it that hasn't been unlocked yet. So that's kind of what I'm trying to look at. But yeah, at any point in time, they could shut him down. So just know there is risk involved. So if you do want to explore shopping him around, I don't blame you at all.
Well, Michael P's asking, thinking of trading Terry McLaurin in a second for Pacheco in a third. I think that should be the other way around. At this point,
Terry.
I think Terry McLaurin, I think you can get Terry McLaurin in a first for Tyreek Hill right now. And Terry McLaurin has been a better player and he's younger. And
Pacheco's
Terry McLaurin
been great.
But I don't I'm with you, man. Like for me, if this was Terry in a third for Pacheco in a second, I'd consider it, but I think Kareem Hunt has been good enough that Isaiah Pacheco's not going to come back and destroy it. You know, they're going to keep both of them healthy. And I think Terry McLaurin, he's the guy. He's the only guy in that offense. He's going to be the guy that eats the rest of the year.
I don't think Kareem Hunt gives up that goal line role.
Yeah, he's so good
He's just been a bowling ball down there at the goal line. Pacheco's coming off a damn near season-ending leg injury. I just feel like from an NFL perspective and from like a team perspective, it's the smart thing to not give Pacheco 20 touches a game.
Yeah.
They'll probably use him as a change of pace guy, give him 10 to 12 carries, give him a couple screens, get him involved in the pass game a little bit, and use Hunt as that kind of bruiser. Because like they're not holding nothing with Hunt. Like he's on like a 1-year cheap deal. Like they're gonna get as much as they can out of him. I just think that makes the most sense. I actually like buying Hunt low.
Oh yeah.
Like I just said,
you could get him for a third or a pair of thirds. And
if that with the Pacheco news, I feel like now everyone's like, yeah, check him. He's not worth anything. He's 29 years old. Was a rental. I'm honestly adding on to like what I said with the quarterbacks, like buying that Russell Wilson, buying that Joe Flacco, and with the tight ends, buying that Hunter Henry, Taysom Hill type guy. I'm doing the same thing with the running backs and the wideouts. I put out a tweet today. Aaron Jones with the injury news right now. Great buy low. Probably can get him for a late second. Austin Eckler, great buy right now. Every time Brian Robinson misses, Austin Eckler's an RB1. He's an RB1. He looks great. He's explosive. He's playing amazing. I would love to see Jane Daniels check the ball down more. I think he would be like a 18 to 20 plus point per game guy with Brian Robinson out. And even with Brian Robinson in, Austin still has 10 to 12 point floor. So that's really good there. And then I mentioned Kareem Hunt, another guy, dirt cheap, has a goal line role in an elite offense. Love this question. Super hot. I am actually going to put this tweet out today, but I'll let Dad go ahead and pitch some of his guys, and I'll touch a little bit on who are some guys I'm targeting at the wide receiver position.
The guys we're talking about here are guys that cost you a second or less. And I think I've already mentioned the one is Terry McLaurin. I have also guys that I like in this range. I love DeAndre Hopkins the rest of the season. I love Cedric Tillman the rest of the season. I know he's going to be boom or bust. We talked about that. If you have a roster where you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, you have this solid floor ceiling, and you throw in a Calvin Ridley, he might put up 2, but man, he might put up 25. I think he's a guy that falls into that area. Guys. I love it. And the second round guys have kind of disappeared. I mean, you look at, there's a lot of young upside. The Adonai Mitchell's been, he looked really good this week, and Ricky Purcell looked really good. Xavier Legette has looked good, but they're not guys I want for a championship roster. I don't think those are guys who are going to put up the points. I think Cedric Tillman low-key is, because what he has seen volume-wise and what he has seen, and I got a lot of criticism where I was saying I would cut Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson for Cedric Tillman, but 3 weeks in a row, he has been the guy with a crazy workload with 19-plus fantasy points every single week. I mean, these are the guys that you're trying to go out there and buy. I love those questions. This one, standing from Smooth Criminal Entertainment.
Is another guy.
Yeah,
Jacoby Myers is a good one.
I was trying to get him thrown into a couple trades today. I like that. Gibbs or Nico rest of season in full PPR? And this is a trade question that I look at a lot of times where I'm like, I do think I have Nico top 3 rest of season. I think it's
same.
I think Nico, Chase, and Jefferson are separated from the crowd. Maybe AJ Brown, maybe Amon-Ra, but I have those 3 guys just separated from the crowd because CJ Stroud is a different quarterback with Nico Collins. Nico Collins is on the field. He is a top 3 to 5 wide receiver. And I love Gibbs. I do. I mean, I want, like, this is very positionally needed, right? Like, I think fantasy value, I think they're both very similar. I have Gibbs slightly above Nico, but I think depending on what your build is, I have no problem going with Nico Collins there. I really don't. What I like to do in these, Snoog, and you know me, I like to do this a little bit different. So I'm going to throw you Gibbs and, like, depending on what the situation is here, Gibbs and Stephon Diggs, and I want Nico and, Austin Eckler. I want, I want a running back. I want to do a 2 for 2 where I feel like I can win twice.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is, like something like that where you get that, or even in that situation, maybe Eckler was a bad. If it was Nico and Eckler, or just for Gibbs, or you get that area where you get Aaron Jones. I'm all in on that. Snoop, you put this up there. You guys are looking to support or join the Smash Accept family. Snoog and I have built an entire Discord for all of our rankings, trade advice. You have 4 weeks till the playoffs. All right, that's a month. It costs $5 to be in there. I have had so many people in the last week just come out and say, Dad, I clinched the playoffs because of what you and Snoog have been saying in there, because of the rankings, because of the buys, because of what you guys are doing. Yep. Bottom line is, for $5 to have peace of mind for your start sits the rest of the year. This week, I answered 150 start sits between 11 and 12:30 alone. People were just in there like, Dad, look at my roster. Who you starting? Or guys will just be like, you starting X, Y, or Z here, and why? Other times they'll just be like, can you just look at one guy? He does this all the time, and I love it. He'll send me a list, and he'll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of his questions, and I'll just boom, boom, boom. This is who you're starting. This is who you're trading. Get that conversation going.
I love that idea. That would be something good to say for all the Discord members that are listening. Like a list idea like that. I need to start this, or this. I had this traded question. Boom, boom. Just DM it to us. We'll get it all answered. I've been waking up to like 40, 50 DMs, just going through, like, answering all the questions and then going back in and answering them all. I was trying to do them while I was traveling on the airplane. I'm sitting there like on the Wi-Fi going in and out trying to answer them. But yeah, it's awesome in there, man.
Shout out. That's Dan McGinnis. Awesome guy. I love. We're creating relationships in there. I mean, guys are like, congrats, Dad, on the rankings things. Other guys are like, congrats on, clinching in the Scott Fish Bowl. Other guys are like, hey, we missed you this week. What's going on? And I was like, I have no voice. You know what I mean? And we're just creating relationships. We care about your fantasy teams, your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, your workers. They don't care. They just want to beat you.
One thing I want to highlight before we jump ahead is I love that you mentioned fantasy football playoffs are 4 weeks away. Why do you need to be in the Discord? Right now is where you can make or break your dynasty teams for the future. If you're rebuilding and you have an Austin Eckler, you have an Aaron Jones, you have a Matt Stafford, you got caught with one of those vets on your team, go to the teams that just lost Dak. Go to the team that just lost Stephon Diggs. That's what you need to do. You got to go to the teams that are competing. They will overpay for your vets. You have the leverage now. I know this from experience because I just lost Dak in like 8 leagues, and I'm going to all my rebuilders right now. Overpaying. Take Dak, Diggs in a second. Give me Brock Purdy. Take Dak, Diggs, and I would have traded Dak, Diggs in 2 seconds for Justin Herbert. I don't care. Give me the quarterback that's healthy. Take my guys. I'll set you up. My team's good already. And that's literally what you have leverage with.
There should be no trade deadline. I mean, I have moved, and this is another thing I do every single Monday is I update the dynasty rankings. And I have moved Dak Prescott from QB 12 to now QB 17. I've moved him in the same tier as Tua and Trevor Lawrence. I would do Tua straight up for him now if I could get him. I would take Baker. I would take Goff. I would take Nix. I would take Cousins pretty close, because you need to have those guys. The guys that I'm trying to tear down for, if you give me a little bit on top of Stafford, I'm going to do it. This is that tough area where you lost Dak Prescott. The bad news is he's out for the year now. And now you have to try to figure out how to pick up the pieces. I am offering a first on top of Dak to get, and this is crazy, but this is a late first to get to Justin Herbert because he's red hot, to get to Brock Purdy because I think Brock Purdy is going to finish the year inside the top 5, to get to Kyler Murray, even to get to Drake May because I know I'm getting younger and I'm moving that way. And I would add a second to get to Bo Nix. I would add, a second or a third to get to Goff, to get to Baker. And I think you're going to hate me for this maybe, but I would add to get to Caleb Williams now because Shane Waldron is gone. He is finally gone. All right. Like if there was a time, now is the time to buy Caleb and roam if you believe in that talent. So if you're trying to move off of
Dak, buy everybody. If I'm rebuilding, go buy DJ Moore. Go buy Brandon Ayuk. Go buy Rashee Rice. This is when you're a rebuilder, especially if you have if I mentioned, if you got caught with a Ridley, you got caught with an Amari Cooper on your team, you would be shocked at how much leverage you have for the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 seed that got caught with a Rashee or a Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. You'd probably be able to just give him a Ridley and a first and get one of those guys, or I got Amari Cooper and a pair of seconds. Well, you would be surprised at what you can make happen.
And on the flip side, this is the time where a bunch of guys are coming to me, right? And you have Dak Prescott. And I believe it's smash accept 11. All right. I said, yo, I got Dak Prescott. I see 4 of you guys in the bottom, for that 101, within 100 points of each other. I was like, you get Dak Prescott, you trade me any of your quarterbacks for Dak Prescott. And this is the way, if you give me Jared Goff straight up for Dak Prescott, you just locked up the 101 because your quarterback's not going to score any points. And you're going to get better. And then next year, why I love buying Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb is they're going to be the players we thought they were next year. Why I love buying injured players like Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin, Rashee Rice, they're going to be the same players they were. You already know what that talent is. You go out there and buy that. I think Dak Prescott is a buy. I think CeeDee Lamb is now a buy. I think a lot of people are asking, Snoop, what do I do with CeeDee Lamb? I made a trade yesterday, CeeDee Lamb in a second. CeeDee Lamb in a second for Jamar Chase. I have no problem with that right now because Jamar Chase has Joe Burrow, and he's going to put up big numbers for you the rest of the year. CeeDee Lamb to me, and if you start working on my rest of the season rankings, is barely a wide receiver 1. I can rattle off 10, 12 wide receivers I think are going to be better than him rest of the year. I think this is an area where someone offered me Garrett Wilson straight up. I don't think I'd do that, but if I could get add a first to Jefferson, if I could add a second to get to Chase and the rebuilder, you win because you get CeeDee Lamb next year. And CeeDee Lamb is a top 3 wide receiver, and I think that could be said for Malik Neighbors right now. I think that could be said for Brian Thomas Jr. because these guys are not putting up numbers because their quarterbacks suck.
Yep.
And you get to benefit because next year we know the quarterback situation can't get worse, right? Mac Jones is not going to be the quarterback for the Jaguars next year. Daniel Jones may have played his last snap in New York, which is fantastic. Dak, he'll be back. So you're gonna get that win no matter what.
Yeah, I would love to take a little second to do cheers to our George Pickens takes because that dude is pacing 1,200 plus yards and is really breaking out. 23 years old. I mentioned it because I put out my top 12 Dynasty wide receiver rankings on Twitter today, and I had a few questions in the chat down below say where's George Pickens? George Pickens should be on this list. George Pickens is my wide receiver 15 right now in Dynasty.
Yeah.
He is exactly what I said he was going to be with Russell Wilson because I thought Russell Wilson was going to be the quarterback from the start, not Justin Fields. DK Metcalf's, Cortland Sutton, double-digit touchdown scores with Russell Wilson at quarterback. George Pickens has scored 2 in the last 3 games and should have had 2 touchdowns the week before. One of them was a touchdown, and the other one should have been a touchdown. So these are the things I'm like. The fact that he could have 4 touchdowns in 3 games with Russ is ridiculous. Not only that, he's pacing like 90 plus yards a game with Russ. He's been like a fringe wide receiver 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect that to change much. I'm sure he'll have better weeks than others, probably be in that 10 to 12 to 14 point range, and then have some 20-point spike weeks. But he's a
3
stud.
games
He's
with Russ.
like damn near a fringe cornerstone asset, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're there. I mean, 22.1 fantasy points, 11.4 and 20.5. The targets aren't even that big, but when you look at things, and shout out to David Gautieri, he put this out today. Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., George Pickens, all of them 22, 23 years old. Highest PFF grade out of the 3, George Pickens. Highest yards per route run out of the 3, George Pickens. Highest fantasy points per game out of the 3 is Drake London right now, but it will be George Pickens by the time the season is over. And you can buy, I think you could literally, now Brian Thomas Jr.'s value has dipped a little bit, but at one point you could have got Pickens in a first for Thomas Jr. You could have got London in a first, or I'm sorry, Pickens in a first for London. And I think you could still kind of go that route, but Pickens is a guy that I think people have not caught up on yet. I think he's looking fantastic, and I love that. Real quick here, and I love when you guys do these. Sure, you guys hit us up on. You guys put in that super chat. We can answer the question immediately. There's so many of them in here, but the one that I definitely wanted to make sure we get to was we had some Justin Jefferson questions, all right, with CeeDee Lamb, and I think when you're trying to go ahead and kind of move into the next realm, you're trying to move into that area. Here's the question from Brett Collins from the Discord. He said 12 teams, start 8, so it's a little bit shallow. Send CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Tillman, and Tyrone Tracy for Jefferson. Is that too much? I don't think so. If I don't need Tyrone Tracy, which I'm buying Tracy.
I feel like that's Lamb and like a trio of seconds. Like I feel like at this point, Cedric Tillman and Tracy are worth like a little bit more of a second each.
Yeah. I would do that though.
Tracy's been damn good, like weirdly.
In fantasy, not in real life, because he cost them the game on 2 different occasions.
If they get an actual quarterback and like that offense bounces back and like figures things out within the next year or 2, and Tracy's the guy, like he could hit big spike in value.
How about this one? This one was sent in from Jeffrey Laycock, also in the Discord. CeeDee Lamb or Pickens, Tracy, and a first. And the first looks to be early.
It's 101 or 102.
He said looking at probably 2 or 3. I'm smashing it, man. Because you got to put your money where your mouth is. You were just saying Pickens is looking like a.
I'm taking it because I could definitely get AJ Brown type wide receiver with that early first, especially if it's going to be a 102 or 103. Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, AJ Brown and George Pickens for CD, smash.
Yeah, dude. There's so many questions because we haven't been on here for a while. ATC says, what should contending teams be doing with Chris Olave? And this is a great question because I think Chris Olave. I think you can get George Pickens straight up for Chris Olave because a lot of people were that high on Chris Olave. Olave with the concussions, he's gone on to IR. I think you have a underlining concern there where I think now is the time where I am trying to, if I'm rebuilding, right now is the time where I get Chris Olave in a second for Tyreek Hill. But if I am continuing and I'm trying to make my way through the storm, this is where I want to talk about some guys straight up. Would you rather have, at this point, I'd move Chris Olave to my wide receiver 23, below Higgins, Pickens, Flowers, Smith and Jigba, Smith, Odunze, Metcalf, Reed. Olave or Olave or like that there or Debo Samuel if you're contending. I think you have to take Debo. Yeah, I know it sounds horrible, but like
I honestly don't like. There's a chance like Chris Olave is like in the same shoes as Tua right now.
I don't think we're that far.
I've watched him
get 5.
I've watched him get cleanly knocked out 3 times in 2 years.
Yeah,
that one that he caught a touchdown in the end zone. I forget against who. Cleanly knocked out, and then twice this year cleanly knocked out.
Right.
I don't know. He was a guy I loved as a player, but he was always a bit overvalued in fantasy. Like he was never on like Garrett Wilson, Drake London's level as like a what he can be is like an absolute ceiling.
Add a second to get to Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf.
Done deal.
Yeah, I think that's the way. What I'm trying to do. I think if I can get Pickens, Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, maybe Lad McConkey, I would do it straight up. If I could add a second to get to Devonta, even Rome, Metcalf, Reed. If I could add a first to get to London, or probably not going to get AJ Brown at this point. If you're going to tier down, I'm personally looking at it of give me Josh Downs in a late first. Give me Terry McLaurin in a late first.
Yep.
Give me DeAndre Hopkins in like the 108. I think that's the way you got to look at it with Chris Olave right now. And I think you're perfectly fine with it. The other thing that I would look at doing is if you have Chris Olave and Dak, pair them up together and get Kyler. Pair them up together and get yourself an elite level quarterback, because you're not going to win your championship without an elite level quarterback. Xavier Lopez 11. He says, contending team, 1.5 tight end premium, give 2 firsts, a mid and a late, and plus Pittman, which you're going to love, because any trade where you tell Snoog he's getting rid of Michael Pittman, he's excited about, for DK and JT. So a mid, I think JT's worth a mid, DK's worth a late, Pittman's
I'm taking DK and JT.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with that all day. And I think when
DK comes back healthy, this is one thing I want to talk about next with you, Dad. And we can talk about this because I've been getting this question a ton in the Discord. But I think when DK comes back healthy, that offense is going to have another boom. Like Kenneth Walker, Geno,
they're not
DK,
the same without him.
They have a nice schedule rest of the season. I think that they're going to have some big scoring games, and DK is going to have some big league winning weeks. Yeah. But what are we doing? I'm also saying this because I have these 3 guys in a league where I was the 1 seed, and now I've been starting friggin' Kendrick Bourne and Khalif Raymond at wide receiver 2 and 3 because no one will trade me a wideout in that league because my team's so good. And I'm RB heavy. I start like Achane, Gibbs, Brees, and like Joe Mixon. But I literally have Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins. I'm buying those 3 in every league because I can't trade them. I can't trade them.
I'm not buying T. Higgins anywhere. I'm just so tired of it. Like he'll flash, and then you're like, "Oh man, this is it." And then you're like, "Damn it, he's not playing again." I know.
Burrow and that offense has been playing, and they play from behind. Like T. Higgins could be like another guy that comes back for the fantasy playoffs and gives you like 20, 15, and 26.
I'm with you. Mike Evans is going to absolutely smash down the back half. He's going to be a
league winner.
He's going to kill it as a league winner. I think DK Metcalf as well. And a lot of people were asking, like Nate Zach said, does Otten take a hit with Mike coming back? Welcome back, my guys. I don't think so. I bought
Godwin being out is good for Otten.
Yeah. I bought Otten and Ray Davis for a late 25 first the other day because my team was really in need of a little bit of a shot in the arm. And I'm okay with it. I think Otten now to me is worth a late first. Do I want to pay the late first? No. Is anybody going to sell him for less than that? No. But I think I've moved Otten into my top 8 dynasty tight ends. And I think there's a real world scenario where he moves up higher than that. And at this point, he's someone that is a Trey McBride type mold where who would you rather have right now? I mean, between Sam Laporta or Otten in a second? I'm taking Otten. I hate to say it. I'd rather have him over Pitts. I'd rather have him over Kincaid, Kraft, borderline Njoku. I think if you're a non-contending team, now's the time to give up Kittle and get Otten in a second. I think he's that good. Now, I'm not trying to – I said non-contending, Snoop. Don't get mad at me. Smooth Criminal just said, hey, man, Discord is well worth it. So many guys are on there like, Dad, Snoop, can I give you guys a tip? You're like, no. Just share it with your friends. And you know what everybody says when you say that, Snoop? No, this is the best kept secret. I'm not telling you. So I love it. We're going to go with Koch so we don't mispronounce that one. Tight end premium win now squad. Trade Ayuk, Kincaid, and Walker for Saquon and Evan Ingram. Smash. I mean, I have Saquon considerably over Kenneth Walker. Let's call Ingram and Kincaid almost a wash at this point. If you were all the way in.
I would
you were
take
you
the
like
IU
Walker
side.
so
I feel like
you're gonna
I feel like that's damn near close to a free IU. Like
it's
I think I have Saquon and Kenny Walk at 5 and 6 in my dynasty rankings.
see, I have Saquon as my 4, and I have right now. I've moved. I have Saquon at 4. The way he's playing right now.
Bijan Gibbs, A-Chain, Brees, Saquon.
See, I don't have A-Chain.
Kenneth Walker. Yeah,
I've
I have
actually,
A-Chain over Brees now. He's my RB3 in Dino.
Saquon's my RB3. I have
Really?
A-Chain 4. I have Brees 5. As much as a Brees lover as I am, I have Gibbs and Bijan in their own tier. Saquon 3, A-Chain 4, Brees 5. A-Chain's the scariest of those because if I'm not contending, I am moving him wherever I can because it's like we're talking 1-2 injury away from going RB1 overall to RB24. Like that's literally the range of outcomes. For here, I have Kenneth Walker as my, at this point, he's my RB8 and Saquon's my RB3. So for me, and that's what I love about Dynasty, and you and I are bringing different perspectives, you have Kincaid Walker a lot closer than I have Saquon and Ingram. I have Ingram as worth the 202, and I've moved Kincaid all the way down to the 110, which to me is minimal value. So I'm making this move if I'm an all-in contender because Ayuk really struggled. He's going to be 27 years old, but I'm taking Ayuk to, if I'm rebuilding, give me Ayuk all day. Bring him over here. But if I'm contending, I'm using him to add to a player. Like I would rather take – no, I'm taking Saquon here. I understand what you're saying. The real Stavi B, awesome guy in the Discord as well. With Waldron out, could we see Keenan spike production? Seems like he could go for an early 25 third. I think I would pay a pair of thirds for Keenan right now. I think I would pay a late first for DJ Moore, and I would pay like the 107, 108 for Rome because I think you could see a spike on all these guys. I think you could buy low everywhere on the Bears offense after they look so damn bad. You know, putting up 3 points against the Patriots, and that secondary should have been a game where Caleb should have thrown for 300 yards. This is a make or break week. If you believe in them, buy them. If you don't, wait, because if they pop, don't sell them, right? Now should not be the time to sell Caleb Williams. He could pop off this week and regain some value, but right now, Snoop, we're talking about values. I have moved Caleb Williams from QB9 to QB13, and I almost want to move him to 14. I've moved him below Kyler, May, Purdy, Herbert, and I almost moved him under Bo Nix.
I think I'm definitely not putting him below Bo
I
Nix,
said almost. Bo Nix is the QB13. Put some damn respect on his name. He has played really well with him and Drake May are two of my favorite guys. I feel good about it
because I always had Bo Nix over Michael Penix. I always thought he was better than Penix. I did not like Penix at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't really a Bo Nix guy at all either, but I liked him better than Penix, so I feel good about that. But he's definitely over JJ McCarthy.
All the Bears are a buy, but none of them are a sell. Because if you sell right now, you're selling everyone at floor. Could they go lower?
They're all buys. Don't sell. Shane Waldron did the same shit to the Seahawks. Held back DK big time. DK was like a 150 target guy, only put up 1,000 yards. JSN stunk. Tyler Lockett stunk. It was the Shane Waldron effect. Look at that Seahawks offense this year compared to last year and the year before that. Like now the Bears, same thing's happening. He doesn't know how to utilize wideouts. He doesn't know how to utilize players to their strengths. Look at DJ Moore last year. Look at DJ Moore this year. Mm-hmm. Caleb's not that bad. Like Caleb's a good player. He's looked good at times. Mm-hmm. He's had big games. He's not that bad. I just literally think people need to start understanding that offensive coordinator and head coach and scheme is crucial for a young absolutely. Quarterback. Like it's almost everything. Like if you don't have that, I don't care what your weapons are. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your line looks like. Like look at CJ Stroud step back. And like obviously the offensive line is a big part of that, but like and missing Nico for a lot and missing Diggs, but like
look at Darnold, look at Baker, put it together.
Look at Herbert last year compared to this year. Like these are the things you got to look at. Like it matters. Look at Baker now. Look at Patrick Mahomes.
Speaking of Baker,
I honestly think Eric Bieniemy leaving the Chiefs was like a downfall for Mahomes' production. Yeah. That was a guy that was back to back, like 4,500 to 5,000 yard passer, had insane ceiling, could throw the ball downfield, and now he literally cannot throw the ball downfield. Like he has been horrible. So it's just, I don't know. All these people complaining about this and that about the quarterbacks on Twitter. Like, if you still don't know what that is, I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, if you're contending right now, would you trade Caleb for Baker?
No. If I get a first on top.
The value on keep, trade, cut is like almost identical. Like, that's crazy. That's where we're at.
I'm almost like selling
rebuilding,
Baker.
If you're rebuilding, you sell Baker and you can get Caleb, or you can get Nick's
Drake
plus
May,
a little bit. Or yeah. Like, I think May's been playing well enough that I don't think we're getting there. Dan McGinnis, thanks for the shout out. Buy McLaurin for QJ, Leggett, and a 26th third.
I wonder if JJ McCarthy, how he's going to do when he comes back.
He's going to be the starter.
He's a good buy low for
Sam Darnold showed that he's going to be in that area, but I would do this for Leggett or Quentin Johnston and a third, but I don't think I'd pay both. What about you? I mean, like, Quentin Johnston in 7 games has 5 touchdowns and has put up massive games. I think I feel
like these guys would have way too much upside and like open wide receiver rooms to give up both, and they're young to give up both and a third. Just banking on like how the dynasty market plays itself out. Like, if one of those guys has like 3 big games, like say Leggett or QJ puts up like a 20 game and like a 15 game in the next 2 weeks, they're gonna be like practically identical with Terry McLaurin in dynasty value, like just alone. So I think you're doing a little bit too much there. I think you should just hold, but I don't mind just overpaying to get a stud vet that's been really good this year. Like, I'm always on board with that and losing a little bit of value up front to put yourself over the top, but most people don't do what I do.
Philip J. Fry has a good question here. He said, how much of a difference is there between 0.5 and 0.75 tight end premium? Massive. Okay, so like, you have to look at that with, if you're a contender, a Travis Kelce, a Trey McBride, a Brock Bowers can derail your team. Like, they can literally make or break your team. He says he's trying to trade JSN plus a late playoff first for Trey McBride. Then he would flip McBride for a high-end wide receiver. JSN is not liquidable in my league. That's true. I think JSN, you saw your week. You saw your boom week. I think you have an opportunity to sell. A lot of people are either in or they're out. I am personally buying McBride here for this. I am trying to, if my team isn't super strong at wide receiver, I want to make sure I have Otten and McBride. I want to make sure I have Bowers and Kelce. I want to make sure I'm getting 2 of these guys in a 0.75 tight end premium, where at 0.5, I don't really care. But in 0.75, I want that. That's why I tell everybody that's in 0.75, if you sell Brock Bowers, you're foolish, period. He's arguably in that format a first-round pick. He should not be traded. But in this one, would you trade JSN and say the 110 for Trey McBride?
No, I think that's an overpay.
See, I have McBride worth the 104 to 106, and I have JSN worth like the 109. So is it worth it to pay a first into that area? I would love to do this trade and get an Austin Eckler thrown in on the back end, a running back that's going to help you win. But that's pretty much where I'm at on that one. Here's one that a lot of people have been asking me. Daniel F. says, do I trade Stroud and Cook and a second for Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty? What are you doing with Christian McCaffrey? Or no, with CJ Stroud right now? I just traded CJ Stroud and a second for Jalen Hurts. I know you did the same thing, a couple weeks ago. And it's kind of that's what I love about the show is that iron sharpens iron. You and I were talking. I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. What's that line? I mean, Stroud, is he going to be a top 10 quarterback the rest of the season, top 12? Or is he going to continue to kind of put up where he's been at?
I think he's going to figure things out. I mean, it's tough with him because a lot of like how they've been winning and what it's been doing has been kind of similar to what the Chiefs do. It's be elite in key situations and run the ball really good and play good defense. And that's kind of what the Texans have modeled their game off of, is that type of scheme, rather than last year. It was kind of more just throw the ball, because they were like one of the worst run teams in the NFL, but now they're one of the best run teams in the NFL. So I think not having Nico, not having Diggs, obviously, is a big effect there because I don't care what anybody says. I watch every single snap of the Texans games. I watch every Texans game. Tank Dell is not the same Tank Dell as last year. Not even close. Tony Pollard with the leg injury looks slow, looks sluggish. Mark Andrews, same thing. Tank Dell looks very slow, not explosive. He's dropping passes.
Mhm.
He's not the same Tank Dell he was last year. He's not getting the same separation. I think CJ Stroud is. We saw it in that like they were absolutely manhandling the Lions, and they played to not lose rather than played to win in that second half.
Yeah,
But Stroud looked phenomenal at
where do you
times
have
in
him
that
right
game
now?
in that first half.
Where do you have him ranked?
He's behind Allen, Lamar, Daniels, Hurts, Burrow, Love. He's like right there at that QB 8-ish range.
I have him at 8. I have
might
now
be behind Kyler for me, but I would just like to see
a
good stretch of games with Nico Collins there. Because I don't care who you are. People could say, like, it's funny the people that say, like, Nico Collins made CJ Stroud. One, look at what Nico Collins was before CJ Stroud. No one knew who he was. He was terrible, first of all, just to put that to the table.
Yeah.
Second of all, if you look at what Joe Burrow was without Jamar Chase or without T. Higgins or without both, if you look at what Patrick Mahomes was without any wide receiver, if you look at Dak without CD, like Jalen Hurts when A.J. Brown and Smitty were out, like the number one quarterbacks and these stud quarterbacks aren't good without their number one wide receiver, not because of the quarterback, because the whole scheme changes. You can't run your same offense when your best players are out. It's just not a thing. So people don't understand that. So always buy low on quarterbacks when their weapons get hurt. I deal with too many people on Twitter, and it just pisses me off so bad.
You guys got to know you can't ask a CJ Stroud question without Snoop getting on his soapbox. So I mean, right now I have an Allen, Lamar, and Hurts are in a tier 1. Joe Burrow's moved to my QB 4, and I think what I'm doing now is I would honestly give Stroud in the late first for Burrow, the way Burrow is playing right now. And I know that's not good principle. I'd rather give up Brandon Ayuk and CJ Stroud right now for Joe Burrow and a guy I can use, like I keep saying, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Terry McLaurin. I have Daniels at 5, Love at 6. They're in a tier by themselves for me. Then I have Mahomes and Stroud at 7 and 8. I think Mahomes is still putting up better points than CJ Stroud, so I prefer him. But then the one that really started – all of these guys have moved up in that next tier. Tier 4, Kyler, May, Purdy, Herbert. Those are the guys that are smashing right now. And I think if you can –
the best value tier right there. Because Herbert and Drake May get some elite weapons. Like they get like a Ryan McMillan or just a T. Higgins or a stud wideout like that in free agency. They're arguably above those other guys. But
I don't want to go any further. The only guy I want below that is Baker Mayfield if I'm contending. Like I don't want him. I don't want to buy Tua, Lawrence, Cousins. No. Like
I kind of like buying Lawrence right now, but he might miss the whole year. So,
all right. If I'm in those situations, though, I'm trying to tier up. I'm always trying to tier up to those quarterbacks. You look at the guy there. Across my leagues, there's 6 different teams that have Jalen Hurts that aren't going to make the playoffs. Yeah, I'll give up Stroud in this second easily. I'll give up Stroud in the late first. I don't care. Like if I'm going to win a championship and not lose value, right? Like you're not buying a 35-year-old quarterback. You're buying Jalen Hurts, who's looked really good this year. You know, he has been really solid over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson just have such a high ceiling because they're all in elite offenses. And Josh Allen's not, but Josh Allen's just a superhuman. But Jalen Hurts has like so many outlets to scoring fantasy points. Like it's like he's got best running game in the league. They get him down on the 1-yard line, tush push.
Tush push.
He also offers upside from just rushing as a pure rusher in general every week. Yeah. And then he has probably arguably the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL, the best duo are up there with the top, maybe with whoever you want to say up there. And he can be a passer. So it's just like the thing with Burrow and like Love is like, it's good for them because for Burrow, especially, they're always playing from behind. They have a terrible defense. He has to go out there and throw the ball 50 times. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert switch spots. Like it's so funny to see now. Like Herbert's doing more with less, and like Burrow has to go out there and throw 60, 50 times a game.
And that's why Burrow's up
to
where he
stay
is.
in the game. And
It's
that's why
he's
Burrow's
in a different scheme, yeah.
And that's why the Bengals are what 3-6 or 4-6 or 4-7 or whatever they are right now. Because that's a team, that offense is arguably the best in the NFL when on paper when you just look at it from Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton. They have all these weapons. Mike Gesicki now. They have Chase Brown, who's an explosive running back. Like they're up there with probably a top 10 offense in the NFL on paper, just in general. But like, yeah, it's a guy that now offers a little bit of rushing upside with Burrow. I mean, he'll take off sometimes, but it's just interesting how the whole landscape is shaken out. But if you look at like these guys at the top, like Mahomes now, I think the too high safeties is killing the pocket passer from like a fantasy perspective. Like Burrow is dominating because of that. But like if you look at Mahomes, you look at what Dak was doing, you look at what Stroud's doing now. Like what are these guys now? It's just run the ball, throw it. Run the ball, throw it. And that's literally what the Chiefs and Texans game plan is. And it drives me nuts. But like they win games like that. So it's just the way it goes. Justin Herbert, run the ball, throw it. Doing more with less. That's what a lot of these elite pocket passers are doing now.
Boogie says, I just traded Jaden Daniels and Hunt for Pacheco and Smitty. I'm in third place. This is a 12-team, one quarterback. I am with you. If it's one quarterback, Smitty's in that same, he's worth more than Daniels. So I'm trying to make sure I go out there and make those moves in a one quarterback when you have extra players. Snoop, rest of the season, Jonathan Taylor or Aaron Jones? I'm buying both, but I think this has to be Taylor, but it's not that far off.
Yeah. It's funny because one of my buddies in my chat just mentioned that like he's thinking about trading Jonathan Taylor and trying to get like a Tyreek, Aaron Jones, Dobbins type of back on top. I want to talk a little bit about that Colts situation after we talk about this, but I think Jonathan Taylor is a guy that you're better off holding because like I haven't been able to move him for anything I want.
I can't.
I tried to go get an Aaron Jones in a first and a second, or James Conner in a first, or Kamara in a couple seconds, or Mixon in a second. I can't get any of that.
Because they're listening to the podcast, a trade just came through. I got to get your opinion here. Smash accept 5. I'm currently the 3 seed. If you look at the playoffs, if I win this week, my next 3 opponents are smash wins, so it'd probably get me a bye. Jacoby Myers, Jalen Hurts, and Najee Harris, or CJ Stroud, Dontavian Wicks, and a late first.
That's a very fair trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tried it with the second. He said no.
I think that's a great trade for both sides.
Because, I mean, we were just talking about buying Myers, right? And Najee Harris is a low-key buy, the way he's been playing real solid.
That's a good trade, like the late first. I'd say Stroud and Hurts are like a late first, early second-ish apart in value right now. Just see if it's like 4 or 5
so then we're getting
passing.
Dontavian Wicks, giving up Dontavian Wicks for Najee Harris then, right? And Jacoby Myers. So we'll kind of get those kind of moves. Snoog, we're right real close to that hour mark. You know, like we're back. You guys got to make sure you guys are checking out the Discord. You guys get in that Discord right now. $5 for the next 4 weeks to get you into the playoffs. We will get you there if you're right on that fringe. We will give you the advice. We will give you the peace of mind to just with your sit starts. That's where you guys really want to be. Guys that are on here that are like, hey, you didn't answer my question tonight. We will be back in again live tomorrow night, same time. Around that 9:30, come on here, drop those super chats, drop the support. You know what I mean? We're here to try to make sure we give you guys all the answers we can. There's so many different avenues. So I got to say again, it was great recording because it was like a week off. It felt like, we're just like at a family reunion here because it was like, man, that was way too long. A lot of you guys have really been reaching out. We appreciate that. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the process.